Who's listening to some? Oh.
Yeah, you got some music playing around there somewhere. What's going on, everyone? And welcome back to another round of TXR, episode number 121 to be exact. Your favorite place on Sunday nights for insightful gaming banter. I'm your host, Invader, and we've got a really, really good show on the docket for you. It is never a dull moment in the gaming industry, as there's always something going on and something to talk about. However, before we get into tonight's topics, let me introduce the show panel. Shock Buddy, glad to have you back. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Scored a Dreamcast for $20 and 2 controllers off the Let Go app. It's a pretty good steal. It was a sketchy pickup, though. I will say that.
Ooh, yeah, there's some, especially on the Offer Up app. There's some sketchy pickups on there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I saw you. You were like cleaning them up, right, Shock?
Oh yeah, because they smelled like smoke, so I put some dryer sheets in them.
Oh
apparently,
have you ever seen the breakdowns? Have you ever seen the breakdowns on consoles when they actually like refurbish them and they get a hold of a console that somebody was a smoker and just how much nastiness is inside?
It was really
from the
clean
smoke?
inside, though. I washed all the parts.
Or you hear these horror stories with the roach-infested.
That guy from Giant Bomb.
Oh, gross!
He posted that as N64 he just bought, and it was full of roaches.
Nasty.
Oh, that's some. Yeah, I've seen that. It's pretty nasty stuff there. Let's see. Oh, hey, welcome back, Tim Dog. We're certainly glad to have you back with your enthusiasm. How have you been, man?
Good. Happy to be here. Nice week to talk some Xbox and some industry. Last week I had my daughter, so I couldn't make it over, but happy to be here and ready to rock and roll.
Definitely. Jeremy, bud, how's things going at your end?
Good, man. I'm reading this news on the CD Projekt Red right now. Insane. Now it's up to $8 billion. They're up to $8 billion. Cool. Crazy.
8 billion. Oh,
crazy.
Man.
Ubisoft is worth almost 9.6 billion, but CD Projekt Red is closely following behind them. Crazy.
Wow. And considering the amount of games that Ubisoft put out on a yearly basis, and wow, that's monumental for them. CD Projekt Red. But let's see. Let's get into Centurion, buddy. Welcome back. Awesome show last night on the Shop Podcast. You had a lot of cool guests on. How are you been?
Oh, it was great. Thank you for checking it out. And yeah, one of those guests was actually Tim Dog. So it was great to actually be able to do 2 podcasts in a row with them in 2 nights. Everybody needs to go check that out.
Wait, he actually showed up to yours? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But yeah, definitely thanks for having me here, Invader, and looking forward to chatting about today's topics. And also, sorry for kind of chiming in at the beginning of the show. I was just getting really into the relaxing music to whoever had that was playing.
I think it was probably Shockley. Nah, Shockley has a bunch of shit running in the background all the time, whether it's his pet gerbil or his mom or girlfriend or something or somebody. I don't know.
Are you gonna take that, Shock? Come on,
Shock. I'm just kidding, bud.
Dude, I listened to the interview with what Thomas Mahler over at Moon Studios when Shock dropped whatever off of his desk, and he was like, "Oh shit!"
See, Shock, you even scared Thomas.
My bad. His is a never mind. I can't speak on it.
Oh shit!
Now, just a heads up, guys. Megatron and Southbound are running a little bit late, so may not see them here, but they'll.
Yeah. Southbound's running about a month late.
Wow.
Oh my god!
There's a name for that.
Yeah.
South's at E3 right now, just waiting to do.
Yeah, there's a name for it, all right.
It's the fact he lives in the neighborhood. So what'd you do if you got a photo on Twitter of him chilling outside the event center?
Oh, that'd be classic.
I would love it. I wouldn't be surprised though. He'd just be chilling.
Oh man, savage, my friend, savage. But all right, guys, we will start off with our first topic, and it's rather new in the news cycle, and it seems like Xbox has something special planned for E3 this June. And our very own Tim Dog took to Twitter asking Xbox head Phil Spencer how planning is going for E3, how Ori's doing, and just all things Xbox. And here's what Phil responded with. Ori is something special. Reading internal notes from Xbox, from people playing through another amazing game by Moon. Next E3 meeting is today. Tons to talk about between now and E3, and deep portfolio of Xbox Game Studio games for E3. Aaron Greenberg doing great work. Console launch years are just special. So, guys, obviously some hints here from Phil. He sounds very confident with Ori coming out soon. But with this whole deep portfolio comments, panel, do you see Xbox unveiling a boatload of new games come E3? Because the only confirmed games next gen are Halo Infinite, and Hellblade.
Yeah, what a great question by Tim. And once in a while, Tim will take to Twitter and he'll ask a question. He doesn't always get a response, but he'll ask a question. It was a great question. And I think Phil, he gave some good information. Obviously, one saying that Ori and the Will of the Wisp was special, meaning it's going to be a great game. I think when all is said and done, Ori and the Will of the Wisp is going to be ranked as one of the greatest games of all time, easily. It's probably going to receive a Metacritic of like 90. I said 94, but it might even be higher than that. I don't know what you think, Tim, but when he talks about Xbox Game Studios' deep portfolio, you already know he's coming with games from every genre, including like horror games with Project Mara. Maybe Hellblade. Hellblade's considered a horror game. I would consider it a horror game, right? Yeah.
Well, so, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's scary, but it's uniquely scary.
I think we're gonna finally see RPGs like Fable 4. I think this is a year, Xbox is gonna really have its finest hour in terms of showcasing its amazing transformation under Phil Spencer. That's just my opinion, but I think they're gonna come equipped to this year's E3, and I think it was just a great all-around question by Tim to get a response, and I think he really gave up a lot of information in that one tweet just by Tim tweeting him.
They want me to yell, but I'll get in trouble. It's getting late. maybe later, but as follow up on what you're saying. As first to acknowledge Ori, I think it's going to be above 90 or 90. It's going to be a huge game. And I think it's going to be universally praised and loved, and I think it's going to do very well. As far as Phil and answering the question, it makes sense for, Xbox to go all out to C3. Now, listen, I took L's last year. With the E3, I think that I think Jeremy never let me live it down. But, listen, this year just makes sense for them to go for broke because there might not be another E3. Let's be honest. E3 is taking a big hit. And I think that if we're all being honest, this could be the last E3 where really anybody shows up. It depends on numbers and everything, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go for broke, and honestly, why not? They are in a position where they're riding some momentum, and they can really, get that games narrative, and if you show, let's be honest, they could show a lot of games, even if they're just started in development. They could show Fable 4. They can show an initiative game. They can show what Forge is working on. They can show what Obsidian is working on, which is another big AAA supposedly. I think they're going to go for broke, and I expect a big E3. And if we don't get it, that's going to be a big disappointment. But I think Jeremy, even though he jokes around and everything, I do think that he sees this opportunity, and usually pessimistic about it, but it's good to see that he's optimistic about it, because it just makes sense for them to go for broke, right? Like,
yeah,
there might never be an E3 again. This is their spot to be on their own, platform again. Everyone watching, and they can really kill a games narrative that was hurting them last gen, especially towards the end. They could really start off with a ton of momentum with announcing 4 to 5 games.
Well, even with E3 gone, Tim, it's not the be all end all. They do a great job with XO9. They did a great job with XO19, and I expect no less with
Right.
XO20
20.
or 20. So yeah,
They'll probably still run news during like E3 time, kind of like how Nintendo's kept on doing directs around the same time Xbox and PlayStation did E3. So.
Yeah, and we get so much news throughout the year. I mean, every week there's something to talk about. So, and we talk about it, and it goes crazy on Twitter, and that's the state of the industry now. With Twitter, with social media, there's a different way to get the message across, as opposed to back in our day, Tim, when we used to read it on the back
and magazines,
magazine,
right?
And boot up our a page to upload. No, but yeah, that's how we used to get news.
Do you remember back in the day when we used to get Xbox Live? Remember the discs? Do you remember when they used to have the discs for Xbox? And you would play them, and they would show the upcoming games. Those were interesting times. Sometimes that you look back, you wish it was like that, but now it's totally different. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Now, do you guys think that we'll see possibly maybe another event pre-3? Because if they have such a deep portfolio of games, then maybe they would want to spread them around a bit. Well,
it's not going to be pre-E3. So it'll be after E3. They'll show, what they usually do. They wait until E3, and then they'll have their XO19 and Gamescom.
Well, I think what he's referring to is the hardware reveal, which is rumored in April.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, as opposed to like when they did it, or at the start of the generation. Remember they had the games reveal, that horrible reveal. They had that. I think they could do that again with the hardware, just to get it out of the way and just E3 be all games.
Because I wouldn't mind that personally. They get the hardware out of the way, and if it's just games, that would be perfect for me. And whatever other service or features they want to announce, that will surprise people.
Now, if I can add on to all this with the whole E3 thing,
please,
yeah. Well, with you guys saying that Xbox is definitely going to bring it this E3, I cannot see why they shouldn't, because me and Tim Dog were talking about this last night on the Shop podcast. In my opinion, at the beginning of this gen, Microsoft kind of had a hard deal with the reveal of the Xbox One, and it kind of left it in a position where they were not able to compete fully with PlayStation. Now they're in a position where they're ready to compete on a very large level. And I really see this E3 being the start of a new face of Xbox that we haven't seen in a few years, because they're ready to compete. They're ready to be a player again in the gaming community, and they're ready to bring back some of the fans that they lost this gen to come back to the Xbox ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Absolutely, yeah. They will gain some support, but it's going to be like, if they're going to gain any momentum, it's going to have to be from the start. They have to be very specific, precise messaging right off the bat, because obviously they don't want the same thing to happen what happened this gen in 2013. Right. And it's going to be I would assume a slow growth because I mean, obviously the PlayStation has a lot of goodwill across the world. Whereas
I'm just trying, rather than looking at it like Microsoft needs to get people to give up their PlayStations, they just need to get it to where now they can at least try to get some of these consumers to be multi-console owners. Rather than looking at it from the perspective of we got to get them to switch brands. It's just the idea of like, well, let's get it to where they want both brands.
I disagree with you on that because I own every system. I own and even a PC. So I'm more invested in the Xbox, and if you can get people invested in the Xbox, whether it's through Game Pass or other means, that's how you turn the tables.
Well, they're going to have to get them to start somewhere, obviously.
Right.
But now look at it from the perspective of a PlayStation owner that has a game library the size of one of ours, a digital game library. They're not just going to, give up all of that to switch brands. You're just going to have to get it to where those who have these massive digital libraries will want to engage in the Xbox ecosystem and actually pick up the hardware or get on the XCloud, actually just kind of try to get them to come back and kind of be in both ecosystems.
So that's where exclusives, that's where exclusives and great games come into play. If you have both of those, again, you can have people migrate to your system, to your platform, and that's how you get customers essentially. Just offering great products and doing what it takes to get them.
Yeah, I think Game Pass can be pretty big, especially when Halo drops. If we don't know anything about it, like Gears 5, we didn't know anything about it until like 2 weeks. But if it's some amazing grand, spectacle of a game, and that's on Game Pass day one, then that could be pretty big.
And I remember speaking to Phil, and Tim was there. Ryan was there, and we were playing Gears of War 4, and we're talking. This was before Game Pass, and he spoke about the possibility of like episodic content being exclusively delivered on Game Pass. Let's say, for example, Destiny 3 comes out and a new DLC comes out for Destiny. I'm just giving you an example. And it's exclusive on Game Pass, meaning it could come out once a month, exclusive content. Those are the kinds of things that you can do with Game Pass. So I think there's a unique opportunity there, but yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, I remember that conversation. I remember that was like the flavor of the month at that time. Games like people were saying that games like Telltale games, if you remember, like certain type of games, episodic content could be, really good for a service like Game Pass because it's kind of similar to Netflix or they call it the Netflix of gaming. But overall, I just find that Xbox, what you guys are saying is correct. They just need to get a positive outlook on themselves. Through the brand awareness and have people talk about it positively, because what they do offer, it's going to come to a point where it's going to be very recognizable. Like, you're going to say, wow, you get this and you get that, and this is a pretty good deal. I think that they have built up some momentum. Sony being as quiet as they've been kind of has, given them a little bit of an opportunity. And I just, the upcoming months are very critical for Xbox. Sony's going to always be popular. Sony's probably always going to outsell, Microsoft or Xbox because it's in more places globally. It has a better global awareness. But, it's we could say that, but it's not. It's possible that both can be very, very, profitable and very,
and Tim, you weren't here. Yeah, you weren't here for the last show, but I spoke a little bit about this. Even if it's a 10 million or 20 million gap in terms of system sales, I think it's a win for Xbox.
Right.
You know,
if they came close to Sony and they weren't getting trounced like they did this gen,
right.
That's a big win. Yeah. So they have I think that they've set themselves up well, and obviously this is their opportunity. I think Sony's in a wait status, and I think that that the Invader brought up the show, the hardware reveal.
Yeah.
I think that there is a show for April, but I don't know exactly if they should show it, because if they show all their cards, Sony possibly can get find their way. They want to hear what Microsoft's priced at. They want to hear the specs. So it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game going on right now. And it's very interesting.
Yeah, you know what's funny is
yeah,
they can release, or they can show a reveal of the system without releasing any of the specs.
That's what I would do, and no price. You don't have to do that,
right? And they could do that, and then just focus on the details at E3 and the games, primarily the games, because I think that's what they want to do. If I'm sure they're going to be smart about it, but they can do a reveal of the system, right? And then they can, at E3, they could do the details and just straight games, nothing but the portfolio that they talked about. So I think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. I think somebody's vibrator's going off.
I thought that was me first. I was like, dude, is that in my headphones? What is that?
Oh, too funny. Jeremy G, put that away. It's not for Showtime. But yeah, guys, it's funny because Xbox, they have 15 studios now at least, and some have been pretty silent since they got them, like Compulsion we haven't heard from yet. Obviously they're just coming off of We Happy Few. They definitely have something cooking up because they've been growing. Double Fine was obviously acquired. They're finishing up Psychonauts 2, but there's rumors of them working on something with multiplayer, just because of job descriptions being posted. And also, of course, the Initiative. We always keep talking about the Initiative because we're curious, and they're definitely going to have something to show at E3. And even Turn 10, right? Turn 10's been very silent, and we should expect a new Forza game from them going into E3. So there's a lot to be excited for going forward. And if they have as many games as we think they do, it is going to be a darn good E3.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's see. We got a question in the chat here from Valorian. Let's see here. Does the panel think the Samsung partnership gonna help Xbox globally, even on the regional issues?
I think that the Samsung is a nice thing. Obviously, it's tied into 5G. It's more or less geared to xCloud. And if you have a 5G signal and you're in a 5G range and you're playing xCloud, most likely you're going to have a really good experience. So I think it's a nice partnership, and it's, to be quite frankly, it's one of many. They have a partnership with South Korea, and they have their telecom. They have been doing very well with iPhone. Yeah. They just started off with, so it's just one of many. So my answer to that, though, I do think it's a good partnership, because they're getting the for the xCloud, they're getting the devices that they need to really if streaming can get off of its feet and be get big, obviously Samsung, you need iOS, and like you look at like Stadia, and they only have the Google Pixel, and they don't have any of this. So I think I think Microsoft's very smart in what they're doing as far as xClouds. Their whole planning and the way they're going about it is they're doing it very well.
So again, Valorian, we touched on this during the last podcast, and I forgot the exact numbers at the top of my head, but Samsung owns a significant market share in the world in terms of cell phones. I think it's anywhere from 16 to 19% a market share, which is huge. On top of that, you factor in, the TVs, and we're talking some major business here. And because of the partnership, again, like I said last podcast, they can do something to where it's already integrated into the infrastructure of Android or their TVs. Even you buy a TV and it's already integrated inside the TV.
It's right there. Yeah,
it's right there, ready to go. And you just boot up, and all you see is Xbox. And when you buy a TV, maybe one day we'll wake up and gaming is synonymous with Xbox is synonymous with gaming. And when you think of burgers, what's the first business that comes to mind? Anybody? McDonald's, right? And when you think of coffee, you think of Starbucks. So I think doing that, I think they did they did a really good job in terms of the awareness of it, because Samsung is in a lot of households across the world. So doing so, I think it's going to position themselves into a unique position in terms of just in terms of market share.
Yeah, and you look at that, what they're doing, and they're getting they're attacking these devices or going into these devices right from the get-go. And they're planning to have like their own Windows and Surface support as well, but those are on the back burner because they realize how much Samsung and iOS, Apple really dominate the market. So I really find them to be going about this the right way. They're getting the big players and they're locking them down right from the get-go.
And again, it was smart going to Samsung just from the operating standpoint, because Apple, again, very restrictive on what you can produce inside their apps, and it takes forever for just the validation of something and for them to approve stuff. It's just a good move where and Samsung or the Android platform, it provides a lot more flexibility in terms of what they could do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, going on to another Xbox topic, fellas. And Xbox recently had a significant update to the Xbox Game Pass quests. They've added somewhere around 90 quests, greatly increasing the amount of reward points gamers can potentially earn. There are something like, for daily quests, there's like 15 points playing any Xbox Game Pass game. There are monthly quests offering 50 points for earning achievements. And we also have monthly quests for, let's say, 100 points for doing specific tasks in certain games. So basically, they've added multiple ways for consumers to earn free points for Microsoft Rewards. Now, what are Microsoft points? Well, it's a type of rewards program that allows you to build up points by performing certain tasks, such as taking quizzes, browsing Microsoft Edge, and a whole bunch of other things. And you can use those reward points towards gift cards, subscriptions, sweepstakes entries, and more, like all kinds of different stuff. Now, guys, how do you feel on the panel? Like, how does the panel find that Game Pass quests? How do you find the upgrades? And do any of you actually use the Microsoft rewards programs?
If I can hop in on this first.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. One thing to also point out, Invader, is you also get points for buying anything digitally, but you need to first set up your Xbox Live account or your actual Microsoft account with the Microsoft Rewards program to do that. And every time you make a purchase, play a game, do a search on Bing, a number of things, you get points up and down. And like you said, you use them for rewards. And I actually think this is an awesome system. I've actually been using the Game Pass Rewards system now for a while because interestingly enough, ESO, a game that I play religiously for whatever reason, is in Game Pass. And every time I boot that game up, I get 15 points once a day from it. And I've gotten achievement. I've stacked a couple hundred points already this week alone. And nothing like getting rewarded for playing video games, if you know what I mean. Everybody's always made that joke. I want to get paid to play video games. Well, Microsoft Rewards is the closest thing you're going to have outside getting a job as a game tester.
Yes, true. 100%. 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a really cool program. I'll admit, I use it quite often. Like I'll use the Bing searches. Yeah. I'll take the quizzes, and hey, you know what? I've saved up my points pretty well. Actually, there was a sale on, and I used up a whole bunch of my points towards like Ace Combat 7 DLC and a few other things. But coming out with this program, it is amazing the type of points that they're laying out.
Yeah, it's a great idea, no doubt about it. And Xbox already has one of the best reward programs in retail, in any business. I mean, you see reward cards for everything, whether it's Home Depot, whether I'm not going to go down the list, but it's one of the best. And I could essentially buy games, receive a very generous reward point program, bonus point kickbacks too. So, for example, I think I purchased, I forgot what it was, but Bayonetta and Vanquished.
Can I add on one thing for you, Invader? It just came to mind. During the holidays, right before Christmas, they had an event where it was like the 12 days of Christmas where they did Microsoft points. If you bought a Microsoft Elite controller, the version 2, for $180, they gave you $180 worth of points.
Yep. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it made it to where the controller was basically free, and you got this huge chunk of points just distributed into your account for you to just basically buy games with and do whatever you wanted.
But that's if you bought it on a specific date.
Well, yeah, but they even do events like that. That's another thing, like that. I thought that's cool. They even have events.
But again, I purchased Bayonetta and Vanquish, the bundle, Darksiders Genesis, which is a great game, by the way, Zombie Army 4 with some movies, and I almost received like a $40 kickback. And this doesn't even include the credit I received to purchase those games, the reward credits. So, and it's instant too, meaning you can, as soon as you buy it, those points are already available for you to use on the reward program, and you can instantly save money. Like, let's say you want to buy another game the next day, and you have a $15 kickback. It's instant. So I think it's a great deal. I mean, in gaming all around, especially when you're able to play the games. So now you take in consideration that you can earn money, obviously. Yes, it's real digital money, obviously, but just for playing games, and it's a trickle down effect, and it creates some of the sales culture, where people want to play games and want to be in Game Pass to where maybe they're buying more games, doing so in the process, and purchasing microtransactions, and it generates a lot of business for Xbox. And like I said, it creates a healthy sales culture for its partners also.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I to piggyback off of everyone, it's awesome. It's tremendous. I've gotten many games. They also notify you when you boot up a game. Like last night, I boot up State of Decay 2, and it immediately notified me that it was active, and there's quests available that you can earn money or earn these credits, and believe me, it all adds up. And if you're aware of it, you can actually do yourself pretty good. I mean, I've bought games by doing this. Microsoft, I would say the only thing that they don't do right about this is they don't really, because it's so elaborate, I guess, they don't really communicate it well, and a lot of people don't know about it. But for those that do know about it and utilize it, it's a great thing. And sometimes there's parts of the month too like everyone's been talking about, that sometimes they'll do 30% better. You can get 30%. For the points to buy cards. Like I buy the cards, so I buy digital credit. So sometimes, now say if I have 50,000 points, now I could buy 50,000 points, but because they're running there's a deal going, or there's advanced points, I could buy an extra amount of Microsoft credit or Microsoft rewards, or the money to buy the games, because they're running that as well. So it's very great. It's awesome. And like I said, the only thing is I don't think that a lot of people know about it. So it's great that we're talking about it and making people aware about it. But if you've never heard of it, just do a little research and you'll see you can actually, buy games and play games, and you get paid. You'll get kickbacks, and it's a smart business model, and it's pretty generous. It's always been generous throughout this whole generation. I would say I've gotten, probably about 15. I mean, I've bought in a lot of games, so I've created a lot of rewards that way. But I would say I've gotten 15 to 20 games easily, just by utilizing the credits.
Definitely. And even now, like with the update, it has, I just kind of noticed like there'll be like a little notification pop up. It'll sound like an achievement or whatever. And just you're getting notified too about, oh, you completed such and such a quest. And to me, in a way, they're like little achievements too, just for doing that. And it's just kind of nice. And you're getting rewarded for everything. Not, just like, oh, it feels like you're almost being productive while you're playing, right? Because you're working towards buying more games.
And I would like to hear a story on someone who's accumulated the most points just by playing. So I think it'd be interesting.
Well, if you want to know a way to kind of optimize the whole situation, because I saw it in the chat, somebody talked about if they'd give you those points for buying a Series X. As far as I know, Microsoft Rewards actually is for the Microsoft Store. So anything you buy on the Microsoft Store, as long as you're signed into your account, actually gets you points. So theoretically, if you were to buy a Series X on the Microsoft Store, you would get literally the $600 in whatever $600 in points would be, but you would literally get points for that purchase. And to kind, Downer's talking about getting, the most points or the most kickback. I'll say it. I'm a bargain hunter. I love searching for a good deal. I actually use Rakuten or Ebates on my phone, and it's signed into my Microsoft account. And not only am I getting points for my purchases off the Microsoft Store, but I'm also getting anywhere from 3.5 to 4% cash back from using Ebates.
Nice.
So I've actually accumulated this month alone 66,630 points.
Whoa.
Wow. What'd you buy? You bought a lot of games.
Like, yeah, man. You're like freaking power shopping.
You've been power shopping, huh? You've been getting the games a lot?
Lifetime, I have 746,291 lifetime.
Wow.
Holy
I gotta check mine. That's a lot.
That Downer has officially made me look like I'm standing still on game purchases.
That's crazy. Well, it goes to show you how much digital.
Darren's always bought a lot of games since I've known him. How many games do you have? I'm at like.
Yeah, I have over 11. Yeah, over 1,100 easy.
Wow, I'm at I'm over 850, but that's impressive.
Yeah, man, you buy a lot of digital. I mean, I'm kind of conservative when it comes to that stuff. I mean, I do like digital, but like, wow, that's a lot of games.
It is a lot. I'm actually ashamed of myself, but
yeah, you always say that. Like, I bought all these games. I feel like a loser. So we've had this conversation in the past.
Let's ask the hard questions. With 1,100 games, is Sea of Thieves one of them, or did you game pass that?
I game passed it. I've yet to purchase. I have yet to purchase Sea of Thieves.
Go figure, right?
Even when I was on sale for like $5, I didn't buy it.
Does anybody in the chat take advantage of the Xbox rewards program, or have you guys been accumulating your points? Actually, Shock, I'd like to know, do you take advantage of the program at all?
No.
Wow, Shock.
Well, I didn't know. I don't know. I've never really accumulated that many points, even though I own a lot of digital. So
don't be like my brother. He was
I buy digital, but I don't get any points
over and over again, and he didn't even know about the rewards program.
You have to sign up for it. That's the
I'm
problem.
in it. I got points, but like I don't got anything.
How many points do you have?
I gotta check. Hold on.
I can tell you how much it'll accrue to.
Yeah, it's a minute.
Yeah, from whenever I get the points, I usually just convert it right to digital cards on the Microsoft Store.
Yeah, I only got like 37.51 right now, but that's because points burn a hole in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had like 32,000 like 2 months ago, and then I just went all in on like a bunch of the sales, like DLC sales. So now I'm only at like 3,000, something like that. But now with the quests, I feel like I can just kind of be lazy in a lot of ways and just kind of piggy bank a whole bunch of those, just because it's just so easy to accumulate them, right?
Yeah, I have like 1,800.
Oh yeah, that's nothing. Now is PC or is Nintendo? Now I don't know because I don't, I pretty much Xbox is my main. But does Sony have something similar to this? Or
yeah, so Sony and Nintendo both have something, and it's not as robust as Xbox's. I could say Nintendo's offers about half of what Xbox offers. So let's say you buy a game for let's say you buy a game for $10 and Xbox usually gets you about 800 to 1,000 points on that.
Right.
Nintendo will give you like 400 to 500.
Okay.
Same thing.
Lower domination.
Yeah.
I guess I've earned 18,000 lifetime.
Are you talking about the Sony rewards downer?
Yeah.
Dang, man, that's a grind right there. I have hundreds and hundreds of movies, and I've used Sony rewards, and I have still yet to ever get a reward out of that. Because I mean, like, that's a harder grind than Destiny right there.
I think Nintendo is actually a little bit more liberal than PlayStation, but.
Oh, Nintendo! Don't get me started on Nintendo and their bloody services and online.
But now that since we're talking about this, it just came to mind. You know who Stubbs is, right, Invader?
Of course I do.
Okay, so Stubbs actually got caught for points mining. He's a great guy, but what it was is him and his wife were both using the account, and she was transferring the points off of her account to his account. Microsoft does, like, just so people know, if you get any ideas right now, Microsoft does catch on to people who are point mining, where they're running multiple accounts to get as many points as they can every single day. And then when they're like putting them in other people's accounts, they kind of pick up on that.
I never heard of anybody putting points into somebody. I don't even know how to
you're
do
allowed.
that.
You're allowed to gift points to people. You are.
Really?
Yeah, you're allowed to gift points, but what it is if you're habitually being gifted points, Microsoft will actually look into it to just make sure you're not like you've got like all these accounts, because every time you bang, you get so many points, but you're only allowed to bang. I think you're only allowed to get like 500 points in a day.
Right, without cap.
Yeah, as free, without making purchases or anything like that. You're allowed to get 500 points a day as a cap for free. So if you're like running multiple accounts to try to turn that into like 1,500 to 2,000 points a day, and Microsoft actually does catch on to that.
Now, when they catch on to that, what do? Do they ban?
They actually, they will actually lock the account.
They'll lock the
account and make it to where you have to get into contact with them. Wow. And they like gave him a warning and they let him off. But yeah, he definitely. We didn't think that Microsoft would ever crack down on something like that, but I guess they do.
Right.
Good luck getting a hold of them too, because I don't know if you guys have ever tried to contact Microsoft. They used to be better about this actually, but now it's all automated.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to get a hold of somebody at Xbox or Microsoft.
Oh,
I can get to them still.
I was gonna say, actually, you just sign in to your Microsoft account, and you go to contact us, and there's actually a little link there that you click on, and it will actually send your phone number to them, and it will ask you, do you want to get in touch with them through text or through phone? And I remember it happened in the middle of the night. I needed to talk to customer service after their actual phone hours, so I wasn't able to call them. I had to do it through texting.
Yeah.
I actually had a digital purchase go missing for a game, and this was all done through texting. I actually did a video on this, shameless plug. Me and this guy texted probably for a good hour and a half, but he really actually did sincerely care and actually helped me prove that I did make this purchase and help me get my game back.
Had to do the same thing with Resident Evil 2 Deluxe.
Oh, you did?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've actually had some success out of the Xbox customer service compared to PlayStation. When my PlayStation got hacked and I actually had to call PlayStation, I spent 45 minutes with somebody, and if I was not able to prove that the account was, the only way they would let me prove that the account was mine is that I had a receipt in my email. If I didn't have that receipt, basically my whole PlayStation account would have been gone.
And you know what? I had the same issue too. I've purchased a lot of digital content, both on the 360 and the Xbox One. And I swear I've purchased, when I go to the Xbox store now, I swear I purchased that game, a 360 game or an Xbox game, and all of a sudden I have to buy it again. So
yeah,
the only game I've ever
that happened to myself. Like I felt like, I knew I bought this, and now I have to buy it again.
It might be what you're thinking is a games with gold. You actually knew you purchased it.
Yeah, I know for a fact I purchased something. And
because when I was chatting with the guy, what's really funny is they actually keep extensive records on what games you purchase, actually physically purchase. But when it comes to games with gold, they're able to track the Xbox One games a lot easier than they're able to the Xbox 360 and the original Xbox ones. I don't know why. That was actually one of the games that went missing. And he even did kind of, confess to me that it's actually really hard for them to keep track of Xbox 360 purchases made on an Xbox One.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's because of the infrastructure that was built. Like sometimes if you notice, like if you try to buy a game on the Xbox storefront on Xbox itself, and it's a 360 game, it kind of loads you into a different screen to buy. It's kind of weird. You'll notice it when you buy a 360, and sometimes the listing, but that's because the databases are separate from what I remember hearing or gathered. They're different. They're not unified. Whereas on Xbox One, it's pretty much, you could find whatever you bought. But when, like, if you buy, like I said, if you buy a game for 360 on the storefront, it'll take you to a different it'll take you to a different purchase point than it does the Xbox.
Any money you have in your digital wallet, you can't even use for Xbox 360 purchases.
Yeah,
you actually have to have a card.
You guys are thinking about this too hard. There's a receipt number, and every item that you buy is tagged to an actual number. It has basically a serial number. So
you're the one that said that you lost your game. So what are you talking about?
But that's what I'm saying. I can't keep track of all the games I purchased.
Well, you could go to your Microsoft account.
Yeah, and I could scroll down to see if I actually purchased them. You could scroll
all your purchases. But I've had that happen too, where I thought I bought this game, but then I'm like, maybe I didn't. But I've had that situation arise.
Anyway, we talked about this stuff.
Like we're off the rails, just talking about customer service now.
I think Shockley fell asleep.
No, he's collecting Microsoft points right now as we're talking.
He's like, I need to step my game up.
He's like, I just created 3 new accounts.
They only go like 19,000 lifetime.
It's pretty cool though, that's what they do, and it is there's no awareness of this, so it's pretty cool that we talked about it. We went through it, and so it could be something that you point somebody to if you ever need to talk about rewards or figure out anything. Just give them this podcast and the timestamp. But yeah, because there's a lot of times a lot of people don't know about this stuff, and some people don't even know that they can get it. And whereas where can they find it and that type of stuff?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And on that note, we will move to another topic, but I just like to give a shout out to the chat. Valurian, he's been very active. Hey, Valurian, thank you for joining us. JMO Money, thank you for tuning in, my friend. I know you just heard about us, and hope you're enjoying the show. Victor, another guy who watches the show pretty often. Hey, Victor, hope you're doing well. Mr. Boomstick was in the chat as well. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, boom. Hassan, thank you very much for joining in. Who else do we got here? I know the Graphic God was here. J-Dubs, thanks for joining in, my friend. Had an awesome time on the Retro Renegades the other night. Of course, great crew there. Michael Monkey Punch, and a whole bunch of cool guys. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us. Fellas, our next topic, and it seems like THQ Nordic have been opening up their wallets more than Microsoft when it comes to buying game studios. And a few days ago, it was announced that THQ snapped up developer Saber Interactive for $150 million. Yeah. Now, Saber is kind of a jack of all trades studio. They worked on the Nintendo Switch ports for Vampire, Call of Cthulhu, and The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. They also worked on Halo the Master Chief Collection and recently released their own game, World War Z, which, the panel played together, and,
the game.
We really enjoyed it, actually. Now, panel members. Yeah, exactly. Guys, do you think that Saber Interactive is a good purchase for THQ?
Yeah, so you say THQ, sorry about that.
Well, THQ Nordic.
Right. It's so I'm not sure if you guys remember, but the old THQ was in financial trouble back in, I think it was like 2012 or something like that. But it filed for Chapter 11. It died, and then I think Nordic Games actually purchased the rights to the name THQ. And then they rebranded, and then they came back to be THQ Nordic. So that's how the name came about. But the Vienna, which is, I think it's an Austrian company, publisher, acquired the rights to THQ's assets back in 2013. So it was a year after the fact. Needless to say, what a fucking mess. I don't even want to explain it. It's too much, but it'll take me all day. But which is, it's a good pickup by them. So they make some good ports, and now they have a hit on their hand. I think it said that the game sold 3 million copies or something like that.
It did very well. Plus, it was in Game Pass too, so it had lots of eyes on it.
It also did very well in Game Pass. A lot of usage.
Right. So it makes tons of ports. This particular studio, but again, there's this misconception that it's the old THQ, but the old THQ is not around anymore. So. Yeah.
Now, is this a studio that should have been on Microsoft's radar? Because again, Microsoft's been acquiring, they've been on a buying spree for studios. Should they have had Saber Interactive on their radar?
Perhaps because they, like we were talking about World War Z and how fun it is. And, that is one thing Microsoft has done throughout the generation and the generation before, is having great multiplayer experiences to kind of help the Xbox Live service shine. And I would have to agree with you on that one, that they should have at least been on their radar, for you said it was like $150 million in the article.
Yeah.
That $150 million, they're probably spending that on just keeping the lights on at Microsoft. So definitely, like they should have like easily just swooped in on that and been like, yeah, we'll buy you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that they had them on the. I'm sure they have talks with them, or they looked into them. But I'm sure that there's possibly other deals that for their type of studio that, like Jeremy talks about, it's kind of a flex studio. They can do ports. They really don't do anything. They did World War Z, which was very successful. But they've always been a studio help. A help studio worked on games with other studios, certain portions of the games. So I think it definitely fits THQ Nordic better than it would fix Xbox, unless maybe Xbox would have a specific game that they would want them to make. And as far as the money, I think it's a little bit high. I mean, even though I know what you're saying, Centurion, but if you look at Insomniac, and they were bought at $229 million.
No, that's a good point. Actually, when you say it like that,
I
Bioware. In Bioware, EA paid what, $800 million for them?
Yeah, and then like we talked at the beginning of the game, the podcast, $8 billion for freaking
CD
Projekt Red, and they didn't even come out with Cyberpunk yet. So, it was an interesting buy, and I wouldn't be surprised if Xbox has something similar if they do buy a studio like that. I think that Splash Damage, something that they, that type of studio could be something that they would look to, because they've worked with them and they kind of have a relationship, that type of stuff.
And that World War Z game has some nice tech behind it too. I don't know if it's ever been done before with the whole zombie apocalypse. I mean, you see thousands and thousands of zombies just come after you. And I'm not sure on that kind of scale it's ever been done before. So I think, I think THQ Nordic seen that and say, hey, these guys are talented, along with excellent controls. I mean, the gameplay in World War Z is excellent. I think we can all agree that the mechanics are there, the gameplay is there, everything's there in terms of, like, the level design was excellent on each map. There was a great gun balance, and it was just overall a great experience.
It was tough.
Yeah,
we were on one skull and we were like struggling.
Yeah.
Well, you could definitely say there's some really good magicians over there at Saber, with, like you were saying, the tech behind World War Z, and having all those zombie AIs on the screen, and you were actually getting stable frame rates, and the game wasn't doing anything insane as a result of it. And then the other big magician trick was getting The Witcher 3 on the Switch.
Ah, that's right. That's right. They ported that too.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been a real bitch, but I mean, for some reason... Hey, am I lying?
I heard it was all done with stick figures and very, very matte, very, very unglorious backgrounds. Nah, I'm playing.
Hey, they worked some magic there to get that game running on the Switch. Oh man, like it really does impress me what some developers are able to put on the Switch.
I've never heard a Canadian say bitch before. You guys say it with intensity, man. It's just like bitch.
You see, now I won't be able to say it because you called me out on it. I don't know what to say.
It was fucking funny. You gotta do it again sometime.
Now our neighbors from the north, anytime someone hears that down there, they say the word, they're going to be thinking about, like, do we really enunciate it that hard?
He took me back by that too. I was like, gosh, Invader. Okay.
I with the show. I swore. I know. I'm sorry, guys. I got to calm down here for a sec. But, Saber has impressed me with a lot of the recent stuff that they've done. Like, again, their recent ports, they've been very serviceable. And World War Z, we had a good time with it. I know you guys have been playing it a lot more too. I gotta get back on it, but there's just so much to play. But yeah, that game surprised me about how well it flowed, and just how fun it was. The co-op in it in general, just generally a good time, even if it could be frustrating at times. But yeah, Saber seems like an interesting get for them. I thought Microsoft would have had them at one point under the radar. Maybe they did, like Tim said. But hey, you know what? There's all kinds of talented developers out there to nab. And hey, I am really looking forward to seeing what they have in the works now, because now they have the freedom to do, well, not like they don't have carte blanche, but I'm really curious to see what they have coming in the near future. Shock, I can't remember. Have you ever played World War Z?
I have not.
Yeah, it's because you don't play with us, Shock. That's because you don't fucking play with us. You never play with us.
Well, I don't have World War Z, so I mean.
Well, you don't. That means you don't have Game Pass, Shock.
Oh, okay.
Come
well,
on. You know what, Shock? Just get your shit together, Shock. Jesus Christ.
There's like a ton of other games to play.
You know what? Yeah. We got to have a game night that's like a Wednesday or a Thursday, just so Shock's able to do it, because, man, we got to get a game night with you, buddy.
You know, I tease him and everybody. It's because I like him. That's why. I like Shock.
Oh, no, you're just poking the bear, man. One of these days, he's going to unleash on you.
He's going to come over. I mean, she's going to be on my doorstep and be like, hey, Shock. All right.
Definitely. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Saber. Now, moving along to a very interesting report. And according to a recent article, EA has canceled yet another Star Wars game. And this time, it's a very intriguing project that was being developed over at EA Vancouver. Now, sources told Kotaku's Jason Schreier that the Star Wars game, it was called Project Viking, was designed as more of a spin-off to the Battlefront series with open-world elements to it. EA Vancouver was designing the game with Criterion Games brought on aboard to help. However, problems occurred as EA Vancouver and Criterion had different visions for the game, and one source involved said that there was just too many cooks. It was one of those situations, there was like too many cooks in the kitchen going on. Now, once it became clear this Project Viking wouldn't be completed on time, EA had no interest in extending development and canceled the game. So, guys, it seems like EA just really doesn't know how to manage its studios or the Star Wars property at all. And yeah, right?
I think, hey, is it me, Invader, does EA cancel more games than any other large gaming company on the face of the earth?
Well,
it's worse than that, Downer.
No, and it's not like EA can just hand over the license to somebody. I think they're under contract until like 2023. I think 3 more years, and they purchased the rights to Star Wars back in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a 10-year deal, and then they produced only 3 major Star Wars titles since then. And it looks like maybe 5 or 6 titles were in the works. That this includes the titles that were already being made. Yeah. So we're talking about only 3 titles out of the 10 years, which isn't too bad in terms of
canceled 2.
Yeah.
They've definitely canceled 2 now. So they've made 3 and canceled 2.
They've canceled 3.
Well, here's the thing, guys. This is a game.
Star Wars 1313. Is that what it was
yeah,
right.
yeah. Well, that was because of wasn't
that more of a LucasArts thing?
Yeah, that was a Walt Disney thing or something with the rights to that. But of what EA, I remember they canceled this, and remember they like a year ago.
The one at Visceral.
Yeah, the one at Visceral, right?
Well, that's the thing, guys, because this game originally started back in 2015 under Visceral Games, under Amy Hennig. And a few years later, Visceral, like you guys were just alluding to, was shut down with the project going over to EA Vancouver, changing into a completely different game entirely. And then that project was canceled for this one. So, like, it's just crazy, crazy stuff going on, because EA really wanted to have out a game under a specific time frame. And guys, like, this is just crazy because, like,
so
But Invader, like I said, they can't just hand over they have to wait those 3 years out, and then someone else can bid in for the contract to Star Wars.
Well, for Walt Disney, EA,
and just imagine dealing with Disney too. That must be I think that's why the CEO it was either EA or somewhere else within the EA family, they hated developing for the Star Wars brand. I don't know if you read some online postings, but he hated that, and people got in wind of that. And I don't know. I don't think they're going to carry the contract after those 3 years. So I'm not sure.
I think EA is just too wrapped up in microtransactions. They got what was coming to them with Battlefront when they did the microtransaction thing. And I'm telling you right now, if EA tried to come out and say, hey, we got another Star Wars Battlefront, and if there was one microtransaction in that game, it would instantly be like black marked. Like EA is just,
that's not their fault though. That's their investors telling them, hey, you need to hit gross. And if you don't hit it, then stocks are going to be down. It's a trickle down.
Yeah, but that's what
single player game experiences. Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm just saying single player game experiences aren't exactly EA's wheelhouse anymore. It's all about multiplayer experience, microtransactions, because they want to basically duplicate the formula for FIFA. They want what's going on with FIFA to be with every one of their titles. It just generates asinine amounts of revenue, and there's like little input on the game.
Well, you can say the same thing about Xbox trying to create that diamond in the rough kind of experience. FIFA is 1 of a million. Minecraft is one in a million. And Fortnite is 1 in a million. You can't create those kind of experience. People keep trying to hit that bullseye to where they're investing all this money in these specific genres, and to me, it's just they're flooding the market with too many of these. Whether it's battle royale games.
That's what happened though.
Yeah,
exactly what you said. If you remember, Battlefront 2 there was a ton of kickback because of this, and I believe that this was canceled due to the kickback to that. Because of the cash grab multiplayer scheme that they were trying to run.
Yeah, they have so many IP that they just aren't even like Dead Space. That's all you have to do. Just make a next gen Dead Space. It would sell gangbusters.
Oh my god,
dude! If they were to remaster the original Mass Effect trilogy, and come out and be like, here it is, 4K,
it'd sell millions of copies. Yeah,
dude, it would. It would, but it's
elevator load times.
But sadly, like I said, EA wants to have these games that have little, basically looking at it from EA's perspective, they want to have this little output, major input. They want to put out as little money as possible to create a game, and then they want everybody to buy up the microtransactions and just totally flood them with money with barely providing anything as a game. Look at FIFA, most of the sports franchises, Apex Legends. Everybody was talking about Apex Legends, but again, it is a battle royale game that is flooded with microtransactions, and it's up EA's wheelhouse in the fact that they had to provide very little to get this game out there, and they're wanting as much money as they can get out of it. I feel like their hands were tied.
Though. They hit gold though with Apex. Apex makes them a lot of money.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I just feel like, I'm pretty sure they're frustrated with Disney because Disney put them in a position saying, if you guys do not create a single player experience that is not weighed down by microtransactions, we're going to start exploring the idea of taking the contract from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, but EA doesn't want that to happen, because you slap a Star Wars logo on anything, you're instantly going to have fanfare. And
again, they can't take the contract away from out of those 3 years. They can't take it away unless they breach agreement, whatever that is. I've never seen the contract.
But what you're saying though, I agree with what you're saying. But what happened with Battlefront is people got, they got keen to what they were doing, and this is the type of only game that they were making,
right?
and people wanted the single player. Like they wanted the Jedi, the game that
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted those type of games. Where this type of game, people became aware of what it was. It's like basically a glorified cell phone model, microtransaction fest.
Yeah.
Although they did take them out at launch, and the single player was decent.
Oh, that's because everyone raised shit.
I'll be truthful. Star Wars Battlefront is, in my opinion, the only game I could think of off the top of my head where they had to go in and completely restructure the microtransaction aspect of the game. And this actually caused other companies like WB with Shadow of War to pull microtransactions completely from their games. What happened was Star Wars Battlefront 2 kind of created a shockwave in the gaming industry and showed developers what happens when you let microtransactions go nuts.
Well, that being said, too, don't let studios like CD Projekt Red fool you into saying you know how they're all against microtransactions. But if you see the Witcher card game, you have to pay money to get some of these nice cards. And they make a lot of money off these cards, which is part of the reason why CD Projekt Red is so profitable. But to answer your question, Invader, who can take over the franchise, the Star Wars franchise and brand? You heard whispers back at Bethesda with Todd Howard, how he wanted to create his own, a Star Wars game, essentially. But then he created his own universe in Starfield. So I don't think that's a possibility. Maybe down the line, yeah. But who can handle a Star Wars, the Star Wars franchise?
Obsidian,
right?
Obsidian's
done it before. Who else? I think
any of Sony studios, one of their studios definitely can do it. One of their good studios.
Even the funny part is Insomniac.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
100% Insomniac. There you go.
Yeah. I tell you who I wouldn't want on it, Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
You also look what happened with the Anthem with EA. I mean, EA just became too greedy, and they had this business model that people became aware of what they were doing, and now they're paying the price for it, and it's unfortunate because we're losing games left and right.
But then Tim, you see developers like Respawn, like we're just talking about, working on Jedi Fallen Order single player game, and that sold something like 8 million copies. It's just something like that.
Yeah, it did well.
It exceeded their expectations. It exceeded their expectations, and it probably made EA realize that they screwed up.
Right. You can't an IP like Star Wars. You can't cheap it out. You have to make it a AAA single player first. If you want to add multiplayer on top of that, you can have a little bit of a microtransaction Ponzi scheme that you want to have on top of that. That's fine. But the first and foremost, gamers want a big AAA single player experience for that type of IP, and if they don't get that, they were going to fail it. So they were smart to cancel this Battlefront, spin-off, because it probably was just like we were talking about. It was one of those games where, it was just Microsoft laden, microtransaction laden, and it was just what gamers don't want at this particular time.
Yeah. Time will tell, because we're gonna see Anthem get completely redone. I'm kind of curious what the finished product is going to be, if that turns out to be true. And we also got BioWare working on Dragon Age 4, and that right there is definitely going to set a tone if that game gets put out and it doesn't have microtransactions. We could see EA realizing that there's a place for microtransactions and there's a place for a single player experience, and you shouldn't really try to cross those two ideals.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
That's right. And I think as of right now, the canceled project, but I think EA has two other games, Star Wars related, in development at the moment. One is a sequel to Fallen Order, if I'm not mistaken. And there's another much smaller title at EA motive in Montreal. So time will tell, like what we'll see down the line from them. It's just, I really don't trust EA with the IP anymore. Like I hope Disney finds a better candidate for them. I mean, Respawn have done an awesome job, like we've been saying. I trust them, but I don't know any other studios. I just think that EA, there's just they bungle up so much. They just get in, they try and get other studios involved, and like there's too much that gets mixed up, but like again, too many cooks in a kitchen kind of a scenario.
Well, kind of like you said, yeah, it's too held back by the corporate entity, and it's not one of these freer independent studios that can, they have passionate people working on. People are maybe disgruntled in the EA. I'm not sure.
I say when it comes to universally recognized brands, Marvel, Star Wars, just Transformers, brands that are known worldwide shouldn't get locked down to an exclusive anything when it comes to stuff like that. Because all it actually does is it hurts the brand and the universe. The Star Wars universe could be so much more diversified if other game developers were allowed to create titles that they could show Disney and say, hey, we'd like to create this game. And if Disney liked it, they could go out and do it. But because EA has this contract, these developers aren't even trying.
In terms, but I agree with you to a certain extent, because if you look at the bigger studios, the bigger developers, what they're able to produce from a polished standpoint. I'm not talking in terms of gameplay or bugless games. I'm talking about pure visual qualities. These games are in high production Star Wars games. Even Battlefront looks amazing on an Xbox One X or a PC. And that's what when you give them to a smaller, more independent studio, or a studio that maybe doesn't have the resources to do something like that, it has the same effect as opposed to giving it to EA, which is a large corporate entity, and having them to fuck it up. It's kind of like the same thing. So there's a fine line between, creating great content in a great game that, is worthy of the content.
Absolutely, Jeremy, and that's true. I mean, there was a certain, like, the Battlefront 2 was a beautiful game. The art direction was fantastic. It's just a shame that it was just heavily brutalized by microtransactions, and that it totally killed the game.
What really killed them on those microtransactions is they were really starting to cross that line, that threshold of pay to win. That's what really kind of set that whole fire off, when people that were shelling out hundreds of dollars and legendarying all their star cards in a night, and all the people that wanted to grind for that, it just completely turned it into a pay to win scenario. And pay to win is one of those things that every developer should stay away from, purely because it's just going to make you, excuse how I'm going to say it, it's just going to make you look like an a-hole in the end when you're trying to create pay to win situations.
Although doesn't get any smoke.
Huh?
Yeah,
they do it with their factions, which now they're splitting up the multiplayer, so they're making you probably pay double just to get the other half of the game, and they're probably going to be microtransactions in that.
What game are we talking about?
Last of Us.
Oh, okay.
I think The Last of Us, and they do it in Uncharted.
See, I'm not a big fan of pay to win. I don't care if somebody wants to go out and spend $1 million and have an awesome looking scarf and a great pair of boots. But when somebody is totally just rocking my world because they were able to spend $300 in microtransactions, that might be a personal problem for me. But at the end of the day, it kind of sets a precedence that we shouldn't get into.
Okay, so can anyone explain to me what the difference between microtransactions in mobile as opposed to the console space? Because to me, it's the same thing. People go in uproar about console space but then it's okay to play to win on phone? Can anybody explain that to me?
That's
Fire Emblem on mobile.
That is a very huge thing because I know what you're talking about. My wife plays games on her mobile phone, and she pays for advantages to advance in the game.
And it's the same thing because you play against other people or you have the high score and get to a different level with, on the social media space to where, maybe you're ahead of your friends, and it's the same thing.
Well, I think that the console games are seen as more like glamorous, and whereas like phone games are just seen as like these little things that you just, you do the matching games and everything. And
I must say, I don't know how pay to win really got a foothold in cell phone gaming or the tablet market, just games like that. But these companies that think they can pull it out, the companies that the fact that these companies think that they can take this ideal out of the cell phone market and put it in the mainstream market of consoles and PC gaming, it's just asinine to me, because gaming is already an expensive hobby, and you don't want to turn it into this idea of what I've called digital elitism. You don't want to basically be made to feel that you suck just because you couldn't afford to play.
Right. And then the only thing I can think of is that console space and PC space is a little bit more competitive in terms of professional gaming.
Oh, dude, you don't got an esport where all these dudes are sitting on their cell phones freaking playing these giant freaking games that are televised.
Maybe that's the difference.
Well, console gaming is seen as more of a premium experience, and where you shouldn't. I mean, sure, you have DLC, but it's like you shouldn't be nickeled and dimed for everything. Whereas
$400 system as opposed to like a fucking $1,400 phone, premium experience, my ass.
Yeah, that new iPhone. I think I saw that new iPhone's going to be what, $1,200?
Yeah, something like that. And the S20, Tim, that Ultra, baby, $1,400.
Damn.
Yeah,
I'm
thinking about getting it, but yeah, I think because the reason why the answer is because casuals, basically somebody on their phone, it's quick and touch, and they're they have no idea what the hell's going on, who they're playing. They just say, hey, I can spend a lot of money and can win. Whereas on consoles,
Tim, you're coming in a little low. Speak up in the mic a little bit more.
I'm sorry. I might have to change the mic, but with the casuals, they don't really know. They have no idea.
Yeah.
With a console game or a PC gamer, they have knowledge and they know what the hell's going on.
Right.
And they know if somebody's free to play and they're beating the system.
That's a good point.
It's just knowledge. A guy on the phone spending $300, and believe me, they have that. They have a lot of people doing that. They're just throwing money in the wind, and they don't have no care. They just want to. They know they're paying to win, and they think it's okay. There's no competitive nature of that in that space.
That's a good point.
It only really works in the free to play model. If somebody was on their cell phone and paid to play that game, I think they'd have a difference of opinion on those microtransactions than when they get the game for free and they're like, I didn't pay nothing to play this game, so hell yeah, I'll throw down $10 and get an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it too, maybe isn't DLC kind of like the same thing, as opposed to, you're coming in with a different level, different weapons, different attributes, and someone who doesn't buy it doesn't have it. So it's like, I don't know. It's the same thing to me. It's kind of funny.
Well, that can be debated at another time.
Yeah.
But all right, fellas, I think we'll move on to our final topic of the evening. And, it's always interesting to see where acclaimed game writers end up. Drew Karpyshn, the lead writer for renowned RPGs such as Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, and Mass Effect 1 and 2, is joining Archetype Entertainment. And Archetype is a game studio recently formed by Wizards of the Coast. In his personal blog, where he made his announcement, Karpyshn compared his new position to his early career days, stating that the feel in the studio reminds me of my early days at Bioware. I can feel the magic in the air. He then went on to say that Bioware grew into something that was very, very corporate. And this is what he states. When I started at Bioware, everything was fresh and exciting. It was my dream job. Talented people working together to create epic games like Baldur's Gate, KOTOR, Mass Effect, and Dragon Age. But as we grew and became more successful, things changed. We became more corporate. We were less able to make what we loved, and the teams were pushed to create games based on market research rather than our creative instincts and passions. My dream job just became a job, and I lost the enthusiasm and excitement I once had. So, gang, obviously there's a lot to take in there, but do you agree with Karpyshn's comments on Bioware becoming too corporate? Because it seems to be something that fans have suspected for some time now.
You know, ever since EA acquired them back in 2007, there really hasn't been a Bioware. You know, so you can make that argument, but again, I'm going to refer back to EA has to do with its shareholders tell them. And unfortunately, Bioware gets caught in the mix. And if you have a leader who has that corporate mindset like EA does, you know, you see the product suffer from it. You see games like, you know, Anthem, which suffered. You see, you know, some of these other titles. But then you see the total opposite now from Xbox and what Phil Spencer was able to accomplish. And he basically lets his team create whatever they want without any restrictions, and he gives them the time necessary. And again, we don't have that final project, so I can't say whether or not that paid off or not. But you know, you can see them. They purchase these independent studios. They purchase different types of studios. And when you ask every single one of them, they say that Phil has allowed them to do whatever they want, to make whatever they want, and the time necessary to do it, along with the budget to back it. So I've worked for major corporations. I'm sure, you know, you guys on this panel have worked for major corporations. There's some perks. You know, Tim works for a major corporation. I'm not going to say which one, but you know, you can say there's good perks to that, but at the same time, working under major corporations isn't all, you know, peaches and cream. Maybe the working conditions are bad, and maybe there's a lot of stress and serious elements that are involved. But there is something to that. While working under the corporate entity, you know, I stopped working for a corporate entity because the stress alone got too heavy. Now I went to more of a family-oriented, you know, small business to where, you know, I'm happier because of it. You know, and that's what he's talking about.
I think that's a very good, you know, a good comparison, and I'm happy for you that because I've seen it. I've known you for a long time. And
well, you see now, I was a maniac.
Yeah,
I was a maniac. I still am a maniac, but
no, but you made the right decision, and I'm very happy for you. But it is a good comparison, and I think that with BioWare and with you know, Drew, what he was saying, I think that's what everyone kind of feared Microsoft was doing to their studios along originally.
Right.
And I do think, I hate to say it, looking at EA, I think that they, if you're really going to look at you know, the negativity and the you know, evil corporation, you know, I mean, it's not the best choice of words, but they are the ones that kind of really seem to push that big corporation. I don't care about people. I just care about numbers. I just care about results type of atmosphere. And I think that's where it comes down to. I think that, you know, when you have that looming over your head, and I think it happened with Anthem. Obviously, Jason Schreier pointed it out, the grinds and the stuff that they had to deal with. it takes the fun out of it, because it should be about creative led ideas, that you're trying to break barriers instead of just trying to nickel and dime the people and getting them to buy things and just spend money and produce the least amount of content doing it, or the least amount of manpower. It just becomes a vicious cycle. And I'm glad that gamers are recognizing it, and I'm glad that gamers are as fierce and passionate as we are, because that type of mentality is bullshit, and we're just too smart, and we'll figure out what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that EA can kind of take they could try to take a step back and realize it's not always about numbers and profits, even though that the shareholders care about. It sometimes comes down to the people, and when you're losing the talent like Drew, it says a lot. And a guy like that should be treasured, and a guy like that should be given what he wants and respected, not going out and leaving and going to some small crew and talking about how bad it was at BioWare.
Now, Tim, wouldn't you agree that even though Xbox and their teams are under that corporate entity, including Phil Spencer, Phil has done a great job, letting the teams create.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not in Xbox. I don't know.
No,
what's
you're
going
right.
on
You're right.
internally.
They're pushing creative led. That's the word that's
Right.
being thrown out there. And
But that's what I'm talking about.
Microsoft has morphed into that. They've bettered themselves in a lot of ways, and certain things like Game Pass probably helped, and certain types of decisions that they made, and to get the CEO behind it. But I think right now my Phil and Booty, they're pushing this creative led, environment where they let the creators create, and let's be facilitators for them. If they need technical help, we can help them here. If they need money, we can help them there.
And maybe it's a little bit different because EA is strictly a game, in gaming, and Microsoft does other things besides gaming. Maybe that's different. But when you talk apples to oranges, it's basically the same thing, because it's Xbox is its own division and EA is its own gaming division.
Right.
So I don't know.
But what Centurion said was very true. They want the FIFA model. They want the Madden model. And what they don't understand is that you can't apply that model to everything. Every type of game has its own type of culture, and some things are not going to work. So in this case, I think that's what's going on with EA is that they think everything has to be Apex Legends, everything has to be FIFA model, it has to be EA model. I mean, you look at Madden. I mean, the microtransactions on that are that All Pro team, or whatever that thing is, that All Madden, the thing that they run.
Yeah,
man, it's crazy money that they're making.
And I just hope that Xbox doesn't go that route to where they're gonna try to hit that target just like EA's trying to do, throwing all the, trying to be another Apex or another. That's why I've seen with Bleeding Edge coming out, and I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. I might just give them a pass for that, just because it is something new, and people complain that they don't do a lot of different stuff. So we obviously know that Ninja Theory has a lot cooking up right now, so that's why I don't mind them doing that.
I think that's why it's good that they showed off some of those other projects that the other teams are working on.
Right.
Kind of were like, oh crap, this looks really intriguing. So
Shock, that's a great point, Shock. Absolutely.
Everybody was like, no, they should have just they should have just canceled those games. So I'm like, Microsoft announcing that they canceled Ninja Theory's game that was already in pre-development because people wouldn't see what it was, so people would have just lost their minds if they were just canceling games. So when they don't have any.
I wasn't here last week, but my take on Bleeding Edge is that it's gonna have its fans. It's gonna have I believe it's gonna have a little bit of a following, a cult following, whatever you want to say. The game is pretty in depth. It's hard to play, but if you get used to it and you learn how to play as a team, I believe that the game could be fun. So,
yeah, I don't think it's hard to play. I think it's hard to master.
It's hard to win. Yeah, it's hard to
Yeah.
win. I mean, me and you played 10 games. We didn't win one. I mean, I played with a bunch of other people, and we didn't win at all.
That game is designed where if you are not playing collectively as a team, you are pretty much running around in circles.
You're done. Yeah.
Well, especially when you're talking about melee, when everybody's supposed to be just like up close and personal, like close combat. You got to have everybody working together, otherwise you're screwed.
But you got to have a medic, you got to have a tank, you got to have a slasher. That type of stuff. You have to play as a team. But I mean, that game, it's better than I thought it was going to be. Put it that way. I think it'll be a game where it gets. I think it's going to get like a 75 Metacritic, and I think it's. I think it's going to do. I think it's going to be pretty. I think it's going to be liked by a certain amount of people. I do feel like it might actually, not be dead in the water like a lot of people are thinking.
I don't think it's going to be dead in the water. I think it does do things differently to where it's going to, like you said, develop a following. However, they still need to adjust a few things to where the gameplay makes sense. I mean, I guess a little bit more.
You wanted it faster. I agree. There's certain things that they should speed up.
Yeah, I mean, they're not gonna fix it come March 24th when the game comes out. They're not gonna fix it before then. So we'll see after the fact. Maybe it's gonna be one of those Sea of Thieves issues where it's gonna improve over time. Yeah, it's gonna improve over time. But right now, it's it wasn't what I was thinking. But
well, hey, we should get a community night going for Bleeding Edge when it comes out on March 24th. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Even though we all get demolished.
If I could just chime in though onto the previous subject, I was listening to your guys's. I actually kind of know all too well about what it's like to go from a small business, just small family-run business to a corporate business. I just recently went through it. Downer knows what I'm talking about. I was actually supposed to help a company that was in the process of a corporate takeover. They were recently bought out by a much larger company that actually is run by an investment company. And when you are ran by an investment company, investors only look at numbers and they change everything. It doesn't matter what you've done for the past 15 years and how many times you've done it. If the investors want it done a different way, at that point, it's being done the different way. They don't care about your input. Just a whole bunch of stuff like that. And I could totally see where this individual was coming from on how BioWare changed when EA took over, and it it felt very corporate to him, and now he's at a much more smaller studio and he feels more comfortable. And I can totally relate to that all the way. And, regretfully, this is what happens when you sometimes sign up for that big corporate money, that it comes with big corporate rules that kind of change the way things are being done.
Yep. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. Like you said, you guys had a way of doing things for so many years, probably because you understood what was going on and you were, had boots on the ground and you realized what made sense. But when that big company comes in and they have a number they want to hit, or whatever the case is, they put a specific number to something. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. They have to hit that number, and it doesn't care if it makes sense or not. and the people that are pushing that will just say they don't have any answers. You just have to do it that way.
And that's
sucks.
Yeah, and you could be dealing with some, but like the person that they put in charge could be somebody that knows how to read numbers quite well, but have no knowledge about the industry that they're running.
Right.
They're just looking at it from a numbers perspective.
Right.
And ironically, I feel like that was what we got at the beginning of this generation with the Xbox One. Was we had guys in charge that were looking at the numbers. They could see fads like Netflix and other streaming services taking off, and they kind of made some decisions based on that data. They were making decisions based on the data versus making decisions on an industry knowledge, and that kind of shot him in the foot at the beginning of this gen. So I kind of see Microsoft why they're not kind of having this corporate mentality towards their developers, because the corporate mentality kind of got them like shot in the foot at the beginning of this generation.
Right.
And you got to think with EA, like going back to the whole Bioware thing, it's like EA's kind of instituted some things throughout their studios that haven't necessarily worked out. You look at the Frostbite engine. Sure, it works for DICE, but doesn't make sense for Bioware. No, it hasn't really transitioned too well. You look at Andromeda and you look at Anthem. I mean, they're beautiful games, but glitches and just lack of content, just not knowing to do with the tech. It takes a long time to utilize, some new tech if you're not familiar with it, and it just didn't translate very well. And some engines are strong at, some things like first-person shooters, and others are just not good at third-person adventure games. So I think that was a mistake by EA trying to get all their studios to get onto Frostbite, for example. Not only that, but just all the other instances, like the studio heads just not knowing what to do, and like just mixed messaging and all kinds of other stuff that just did not add up. And it's a shame about Bioware, because at one point they were like the top of the RPG, in the business when it came to the Western RPGs, and now they're just kind of, they're not a joke, but it's just they're kind of they're just not the same. So it's a shame about what's going on there, but I'm happy for Drew because he's doing what he likes, and he seems very positive going into Archetype Entertainment.
Yeah, so. I have another corporate story, but I don't know if you guys want to hear it, but it's kind of long. But
go for it.
All right. So when I was at WSS, and you guys, Tim knows what I'm talking about. Before I even met Tim, they gave someone else the reins, meaning they brought some, heavy CEO, COO on board from, someone with massive amounts of corporate experience. So they thought, and, they instituted all this KPI, and data that comes in and what works. And they spent all this money, and bringing in different, professionals, so to speak, into this business, and they really just overspent, and they ran a family business at the time, which was WSS, into the ground, and they ended up paying for it they almost went bankrupt, but luckily the owner seen it and caught that right away, and just took care of it and got rid of all these people and everything. Went back to the old way, the way it worked in the olden days when he created the business. And he just created something special. Now WSS is in 3 or 4 states in the US, which include California, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, stuff like that. So, but yeah. Anyway, that's my story.
Nice story, man. I like Jeremy's stories. Don't you agree, chat? I kind of like them. Well,
I don't.
But
hey, when I'm not sitting around the fire singing Kumbaya with Phil Spencer, I am listening to one of Downer's stories.
Kumbaya.
Yeah, let's get all in on the Kumbaya, guys. But you know what? On that note, fellas, I think that about does it for this week's show. And honestly, another fantastic show yet again. Guys, really, really good comments tonight. Really loved it. And a massive thank you to all those who tuned in to us live. We appreciate all of you that tune in live. And of course, everyone else that catches us after the fact. Don't forget that we're on a number of podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, just to name a few. So check out those if you're often on the go. Definitely get your TXR fix on the go. It's, a lot of people seem to be doing that now. Crew, great energy tonight as always. Let's get to some of these outros. Shockman, Shockley, the Shockster. Good comments tonight, bud. Really sharp. Where can everybody follow you?
Yep, you can find me on at ShockNero on Twitter and Easy Shock on Xbox Live, but I'm never on it apparently. So.
Well, hey, bud, we'll definitely get you to jump on some games, and I know the schedule doesn't sometimes work out for you, but hey, we'll work something out, of course.
I've been trying to get through Final Fantasy VII before the remake, but man, that game is ridiculously long.
Oh yeah, you could spend a good 60 hours, and
that's pretty hardcore, though. You're gonna play the original and then play the remake.
Yeah, well, it's on the Switch, so you can kind of like fast forward through a lot of. You can do it like ×3 speed, so that helps.
Is the music ×3 speed? Yeah.
No.
All the characters sound like chipmunks conversating with each other.
Music thought.
Oh man, I'm just imagining that in the remake now. That'd be crazy. But all right, that's good. But Jeremy, I know you want to head out of here and catch a second showing of Sonic the Hedgehog, but quickly, where can everybody follow you?
That movie was great, by the way. Did you end up going to see that, Invader, or did you see that stupid movie?
Stupid, dude.
No, it's not stupid. It's actually a good movie. The war movie, 1917.
Yeah, I ended up seeing 1917. Really,
it was good.
Yeah, it was very, very good. Yeah,
I heard it was like it was instituted like in one shot.
Almost.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know too much about the actual cinematography, but it was really good. The way that everything was.
It almost felt like a video game, like they would just follow a character and just the
crazy
shot just stayed there. No,
I need to see that.
You can see where they did split it a couple times
on digital content. All right. Anyway, you can find me on Xbox at Downer Space J, and that's it.
Liking that. Tim Dog, hey bud, really, really good stuff tonight as per usual. Glad to have you back. Where can people follow you, Mr. Xbox man?
My mic might sound horrible because my phone is about to die, but you can find me at xCloud Tim Dog on Twitter. You can also listen to me on Tuesday nights, RDX, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Nice. Definitely check out RDX, guys. Awesome show. And Centurion buddy, where can everybody follow you at?
Well, thank you for everybody tuning in. For those interested, you can always find me on Xbox Live, YouTube, and Twitter at Centurion1307. I kick it here with you guys every Sunday on TXR. I do Saltiest Gaming Podcast with the Saltiest Gamer on Thursdays and the Shop Podcast with PTK Blam on Saturdays.
Sorry, just laughing. It looked like Jeremy was licking Shock for a sec.
Well, on that note, good night.
But yeah, and guys, of course, I'm Invader. You guys can follow me on my channel, Invader Gaming, and hey, I'm pretty active on Twitter at Invader_1986. Guys, fantastic show. Thank you, everyone that tuned in, and hey, keep an eye on our Twitter account because we will have a giveaway going in a few days. So definitely check up on that. Have a good one, fellas. Catch you next weekend.
Later.
Peace.